Hey folks, welcome to Quantum Mind Hub. Don't forget to share the video and your thoughts in the comment section and to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Back at the mansion, Adana clutched the mysterious letter with trembling hands. The nickname scrawled at the end, her pet name from Deo, instantly brought back memories of late-night banter and stolen kisses. Her tears, still fresh from the funeral, dried into a cold, uneasy suspicion. In the following days, little things began to unravel her fragile sense of closure. A credit card statement arrived under Deo's name, listing purchases made the very week after his supposed death. Confused, she called the company only to be met with polite but firm insistence that the charges were valid and that Deo himself had signed off on them. Then came the security footage. Her estate's private guard showed her a grainy clip from the gate camera at 2 in the morning. The figure lurking near the edges of the property resembled Deo. Same height, same broad shoulders. The way he tilted his head. She couldn't see the face clearly, but something about that posture, that quiet, confident presence, froze her blood. Friends tried to console her, urging her to grieve properly, but Adana found herself growing sleepless and paranoid. She confided in the one friend who had been acting strangely distant, only to be met with evasive answers. At night, the mansion's many rooms felt like hollow shells echoing Deo's absence. More than ever, she longed for his presence, even if it meant fighting. Yet the creeping thought persisted. If he was alive, why had he never said goodbye? Unable to shake the growing dread, Adana decided she needed answers, and not the canned platitudes from the police who had already closed the case. She phoned an old acquaintance, Malik, a private investigator known for his resourcefulness and tenacity in uncovering the darkest secrets. His skepticism turned to intrigue the moment she mentioned the insurance payout, the untraceable boating accident, and the letter signed with Deo's personal nickname. Within hours, Malik gathered every scrap of information available, piecing together a digital puzzle that led them far from Lagos's bustling nightlife to a small, dusty town in the northern savannah. There, rumors whispered of a man fitting Deo's description. Charming, elusive, with a flair for spending money like it would never run out. Malik sent Adana clandestine photos showing a figure stepping out of a sleek SUV, sporting designer shades and dressed in immaculate tailored suits. Though the pictures were grainy, the stance, the confident tilt of his chin, screamed Deo. Adana's heart pounded with every new image, a volatile mix of fury, betrayal, and desperate hope surging in her chest. She could barely concentrate on her work, her once thriving fashion label now on autopilot as she plotted her next move. The more Malik uncovered, the more Deo's disappearance felt orchestrated, a twisted drama in which she was merely the unsuspecting audience. And there, in that hidden town, Adana saw the final, indisputable proof, another woman clinging to his arm, her eyes brimming with adoration. Torn between heartbreak and indignation, Adana flew to the discreet airstrip closest to the small town, dressing herself in plain, nondescript clothing. Gone were her luxurious outfits and elaborately styled wigs. She needed anonymity more than anything. Hiding behind dark sunglasses, she navigated the bustling market stalls, eventually tracking Deo's movements to a popular local eatery. From the shadow of a half-broken wall, she spotted him. Very much alive, laughing with the new woman as though life had never been better. His arm draped casually over the woman's shoulder, Deo looked carefree, completely unrecognizable from the husband Adana once knew. Gone was the anxiety or the restless phone calls in the night. Instead, he seemed almost unburdened. Rage and hurt waged war in Adana's mind. She took out her phone, her hands shaking, determined to capture the betrayal for her own sanity, if nothing else. When she finally stepped forward and called his name, her voice cracked with disbelief. He spun around, locked eyes with her, and the color drained from his face. He tried to dismiss her as a confused stranger, but the raw pain in her voice startled the small crowd gathering around. She demanded answers, demanded the truth. Deo's denial was cold, almost cruel, yet she kept filming, her camera recording every syllable, every moment of his deliberate deceit. Surrounded by curious onlookers, Adana realized with dawning horror that her husband wanted to erase his old life and her forever. That night, as Adana replayed the confrontation on her phone, the truth unspooled like a tragic movie. Every gesture, every hollow apology from Deo reeked of manipulation. She recalled the months leading up to his disappearance, the late-night calls he cut short whenever she walked into the room, the random offshore business trips he'd insisted were vital for their financial future. When she combed through their joint accounts, the scale of the betrayal felt like a slap to the face. Almost all of her assets, her bank savings, her investments in South Africa, and even her shares in the fashion label had been quietly transferred to accounts bearing Dayo's name. Malik's investigations exposed a more sinister side. Dayo hadn't worked alone. An offshore hacker collective facilitated the fake boating accident, clearing digital footprints, and forging the necessary documents to claim insurance money. With each discovery, Adana felt sicker. How could the man who once sang her praises in front of thousands of fans at a charity gala do something so calculated, so heartless? Shock gave way to fury when Malik unearthed the final blow. One of her closest friends, the same one who seemed strangely distant at the funeral, had been in on the scheme, even helping Dayo secure the false passports. For days, Adana was crushed under the weight of betrayal. Yet in that darkness, a spark lit up in her eyes. If Dayo could plan a grand con, she would plot an even grander payback. Adana wasted no time assembling a small circle of allies who shared one crucial quality. They each had a personal score to settle with either Dayo or his accomplices. First was Titi, her lawyer cousin who had once worked on high-profile fraud cases. Sharp-tongued and relentless, Titi knew every legal loophole like the back of her hand. Next was Daimeji, a 15-year-old tech prodigy from down the street who tinkered with programming in his mother's modest tailor shop. He might have been young, but his grasp of code and encryption rivals most professionals. Finally, there was Aisha, the ex-wife of one of Dayo's offshore partners. A strong-willed woman accustomed to life's harsh knocks, she had been left penniless but not powerless. Huddled in Adana's living room, drawn curtains blocking out the prying eyes of the Lagos elite, they exchanged stories of betrayal and mapped out a strategy. They would lure Dayo with the promise of quick, lucrative gains, a scheme so tempting he wouldn't resist. TT would craft contracts so watertight that once he signed, his assets would be legally fair game. Daimeji would simulate a dazzling online investment platform using dummy corporations. Aisha's contacts would vouch for its legitimacy, luring him in with the promise of extravagant profits. Though they were scared, Adana most of all, an undercurrent of electric determination pulsed among them. Their plan was not just about reclaiming stolen money, it was about teaching Dayo and his co-conspirators that betrayal has consequences. Under the guise of a multinational firm seeking African investment opportunities, TT and Daimeji crafted a convincing virtual platform that sparkled with fictitious success stories. They peppered the site with glowing testimonials and sleek data dashboards, projecting skyrocketing returns. Meanwhile, Aisha slipped word to Dayo through intermediaries connected to his offshore hacker ring, tantalizing him with an exclusive invitation to the ground floor of this booming venture. Just as predicted, his greed outweighed his caution. On a humid afternoon, Dayo signed the initial papers electronically from his hidden haven up north. Each keystroke was a small victory for Adana's team, bringing them one step closer to justice. Once he began funneling funds into the bogus accounts, TT's legal wizardry kicked in. She triggered emergency clauses, effectively freezing every deposit Dayo made. At the same time, Daimeji hacked into the shell accounts, seizing control of the money before Dayo could sense anything amiss. But the real masterstroke was the timing of their bombshell reveal. Adana uploaded the confrontation video, Dayo vehemently denying his identity, onto social media just as the accounts froze. Within hours, the footage went viral across Africa's digital landscape, fueling public outrage. Television anchors clamored for the backstory. Talk shows debated the ethics of fake deaths, and netizens mercilessly roasted Dayo for his brazen deceit. Only one final twist remained, and it came in the form of the new woman by his side, who strolled into view, smirking, to reveal she'd been part of Adana's plot all along. In a flurry of media chaos, Dayo's carefully constructed facade came crashing down. Local and international news outlets broadcast images of him being cornered by the authorities. His bewildered face splashed across screens from Lagos to Nairobi. Investigative journalists uncovered a string of aliases he had used before, revealing how he orchestrated similar scams targeting high-net-worth individuals in Ghana and beyond. Suddenly, Adana's once romantic husband became the focus of a continent-wide scandal, the kind usually reserved for corrupt politicians and embezzling executives. As the legal system sank its teeth into him, more victims emerged from the woodwork, recounting eerily familiar stories of betrayal. The offshore hackers he'd employed turned on him, testifying in exchange for reduced sentences. Even the once silent friend who'd aided his disappearance offered a tearful confession, hoping to dodge the harshest penalties. Deo stood trial for insurance fraud, identity fraud, and a litany of financial crimes, each charge further blotting his reputation and any chance of returning to polite society. Yet for Adana, the victory felt bittersweet. Though she exposed Deo, her once glittering marriage had been reduced to a cautionary tale, retold in tabloids and social media threads. Her heart felt hollow, weighed down by endless questions about the sincerity of their years together. Still, seeing him brought to justice, seeing his smug confidence crumble in front of the world, offered a sliver of solace. In that fleeting moment, she felt the faint stirrings of something she thought she'd lost forever: hope. In the months following the trial, Adana faced the monumental task of rebuilding her life. She returned to Lagos amid intense public scrutiny, but she refused to hide in shame. Instead, she channeled her ordeal into a purpose-driven mission, launching the Phoenix Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting victims of financial fraud. Victims from all walks of life, many still shackled by debt and disbelief, found solace in her story. Media outlets initially hounded her for sensational headlines, but with each interview she deflected the spotlight away from her personal heartbreak and shone it on the broader crisis of predatory con artists who preyed on the trusting and the desperate. Though the insurance payout had been frozen and tied up in legal disputes, Adana poured what resources she could into the foundation, fueled by an unwavering desire for justice. Slowly, her fashion label began to regain its stature. Clients rallied around her, impressed by her grit and resilience. Even her circle of friends shifted, tightened. Only those who stood by her in the darkest hours remained. On a warm afternoon, as Adana sifted through mountains of correspondence from survivors, she found a short, cryptic message. It referenced another woman in a distant city who claimed to have been scammed by Deo under a different identity. The note ended with a haunting implication. Deo might have accomplices still at large. Adana's pulse quickened. Though she had regained her footing, this fight, it seemed, was far from over.